This is Hunter Way at the Athletes Lounge podcast, and I'm here with my guest.
I'm Tyler Choate, head girls basketball coach at North High School.
So, Coach, just getting right into things. What do you what's your outlook in this season? Going into it.
We have a big turnover from last year. The last couple of years, honestly, we pretty senior dominant last couple seasons and lost some really good players that are still playing at the next level. So, going to be really young and inexperienced. I think that takes time and some patience and things, but hopefully our kids can continue to get better throughout the season and play their best basketball at the right time.
So, when you have turnover like that, do you kind of have to look at what you like to do on a normal basis and kind of change it up?
We try to answer your question in short, yes. We try to do things year by year and what we're good at, what are our strengths. So, quick example, last year, interior, we had some really nice players on our front line. One of them's playing at Southeast Missouri and one of them's playing at Kentucky State. Both graduated, and now we're more guard oriented. So just doing different stuff based off of the team, because obviously at this level you can't recruit your kids for your program. You kind of got to adapt your philosophies for the kids that you have.
So when you have kind of a change like that, from even like a bigger team to a smaller team, how does that change you on the defensive end? Because when you're when you're smaller on the defensive end, it's you kind of have to do things differently.
It's a great question, Hunter. We're still learning, to be honest. Try different stuff in practice, whether it's a zone stuff or a man stuff, which zone's going to work best. Typically, when you're undersized, you can't just sit back and let people pass over the top of you. So it's no secret we're going to have to pressure the ball and hopefully force some turnovers for some easy shots, because when you're undersized, sometimes it's difficult to score around the basket when you're in a half-court set. So we're going to have to pressure the ball, but like I said, we're still trying to figure that out exactly how we're going to play.
When you with this turnover, does it make your job as a coach a little bit harder year to year, or do you actually like having the turnover to try new things out?
It's a fresh start. We try to be optimistic with it. I think any coach that's listening or anybody that follows sports would be naive to say that they don't want really, really good players that, are long and tall. So if we had 3 or 4 girls that were over 6 foot, they could shoot it, I wouldn't be mad about that. So, but it's a fresh challenge. That's part of coaching, and some of the fun part of coaching is figuring out different stuff that's going to give your opponents fits. So new group is just new challenges, and that's the way that we're trying to present it to our kids and present it to our coaching staff.
So over your 8 years at North, how has your kind of style, philosophy kind of changed over? How have you kind of evolved over your time there?
Yeah, and again, another great question. I think first off, I want to say that I try to connect with players and build relationships first, and that hasn't changed. I feel like I've gotten better at that. When you're a young coach, you think you know everything and you don't. So there's different stuff as far as that part goes that I feel like I've gotten better at and our staff has gotten better at. But as far as on the offensive end, I think what we've really focused in and narrowed in on is just the basic stuff. Honestly, basic footwork, screening bodies instead of spaces, and setting your girl up instead of just coming off a screen without setting them up, handling the ball. So, I think at times all of us coaches, we try to do stuff that's not reinventing, but just stuff that's fancy or something that we see on social media or what's new, instead of focusing on the basics. And we've learned at this program, if we focus on the basics, they work. And trying to get our kids to connect the dots. We just talked about it yesterday in practice of what you know and what you do. All the stuff that our girls are struggling with right now, they know. I mean, they know what footwork is. They know how to set their girl up. They know what position they should be in, but sometimes they don't do it. So just getting that connection is the hard part, but it's also the fun part.
When you have I'll just ask this: how did you first get into basketball? Or I guess what's your basketball experience up to this point?
Interesting story. I played college baseball at USI. Was there in 2009, 10, and 11. So I was part of the national championship in 2010 with Coach Archuleta. It was awesome and fun. And I was a graduate assistant for him, USI, baseball for 2 years. My dad was an educator. My dad was a basketball coach, not at the varsity level, at the freshman level, the boys side. So I grew up in a gym and grew up around a baseball field. I always kind of felt like that I wanted to coach basketball even when I was playing it. And what I mean by that is I was always thinking the game. What can we do to give my team an advantage? It was almost like I wanted to coach more than I wanted to play. I was just better and more gifted at baseball. So I did that route and really enjoyed the baseball side of things. But I got into education, got my PE degree from USI, and uh, got hired at Cedar Hall Community School, which is a K-8 here in Evansville. And they did not have a basketball coach at all. No one willing to do it. And I offered to do it. We weren't extremely strong team, but it was a great group to be around, and I learned a lot. Made connections through the corporation. I met Annette Combs, just professionally. Made a connection that way, and Annette was the basketball coach here at North at the time, and the girls. And she called me one day and said that she was going to step down, and said that I should consider being the coach. Applied for it and was blessed enough to get offered the job by the athletic director at the time and Principal Skinner, and kind of got started that way. So really my story is I don't know if I deserved the job, to be honest, with no background in basketball, but fortunate enough to do it and love it. I love the game of basketball. I think about it all the time.
Switching to your baseball career for a second, what was it like when you won it all in 2010? Just kind of, I guess, explain that feeling. That's interesting, and just
Yeah. We're on a podcast, so I don't mind to share a little bit of stuff in depth. It was the most humbling and life-changing experience in my life. And what I mean by that is I transferred to USI from Southern Illinois University in Carbondale in 2009. So I played baseball at USI in 2009 and was an all conference selection. Had a great year. I was a pitcher and a first baseman, a little bit of a designated hitter. And then 2010, going into the season, I was a preseason All-American. It was just, man, life was great. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to play professionally and then be the best college player I could be. And I blew my arm out in the 9th game of the season and had to have season-ending surgery at that time. And so why I said it was the most humbling is when you're young and silly and arrogant, you wonder if things can go on without you. And that team went on without me. But I was able to contribute in a way that wasn't on the field. Coach Archuleta invested and challenged me to help the team in the dugout. So I was helping with outfield alignment and pitch calling and all sorts of stuff that was the coaching side of it. So I kind of got to scratch that itch as a coach. And obviously we won the national championship without me as a player. So it was kind of like, hey, this takes a group of people, not just you. So it was very, very humbling to win that. But the connections that we made and the memories that were made and the feeling of winning a national championship, regardless of its Division II level, was something I'll never forget.
So now, kind of switching back to your current post, even though that was baseball and this is basketball, did you take anything from that experience and put it into, I guess, what you do now?
Yes, 100%. Yes. USI baseball, Coach Archuleta he just changed my life. I had a great upbringing. I don't want to say that. Great parents, wonderful, that held me accountable. But, college athletics is challenging and it's hard. And he showed me that I can do hard things. So, yes, I took doing small things. The way that you do anything is how you do everything. I say that to our kids still currently. Said it to him yesterday at practice. I got that from him. So just executing small details in your life and getting the right habits and doing those on a daily basis. You can do that in basketball or hockey. It doesn't matter. Habits are a big deal. And I think that those things carry on from sport to sport.
Is there any skill in basketball you look for most in a player, be it ball handling, passing, shooting? Is there any type of skill that you may put a premium on? Obviously, every coach would like their kids to be 5-tool at everything, but is there anything that you kind of put a premium on?
What we tell our kids and what our philosophy is if you can handle the ball at the high school level, you can do anything you want to do. High school basketballs at the girls' levels play below the rim. And what I mean by that is very few females, especially at the high school level, are going to get up and dunk the ball or throw an alley-oop or that sort of thing. So if you can handle the basketball because the game's played below the rim, you can get out of pressure. You can create your own shot. You can create shots for your teammates. You can just do pretty much whatever you want to do. So we spend a lot of time, especially in the off season, the fall, in the spring, and in the summer, just simple ball handling. Again, if somebody came to my practice, they'd probably be bored because it's just basic stuff that they probably did when they were in elementary. But we really harp on ball handling, especially on that weekend. So to answer your question in short, being able to handle the basketball.
When you is there any way you prefer to play defensively, be it I guess man or zone? Is there any type of preference there?
It depends on our team.
Yeah.
Last year we were long and athletic and slow of foot. If there was a track meet, some of our kids would probably have to just stay at the concession stand or not participate in it. So um, we had to play a zone last year because of our size and our length and our lack of ability to move. And this year, like I mentioned a little bit earlier in the podcast, probably have to play more man and ball pressure. And first got the job, we had Anna Newman, who played at Evansville, and Fredriana Adams, who played at Morehead State, both like 5'2". So we had to pressure the ball like crazy. So we feel like that positioning is the most important thing. Sometimes athletes can get away with not being in good position because they're athletic. If you're slow of foot like we were last year, we kind of have to play a zone to make sure that they're in position, because the more that they move, the more likely they are to get out of position. So just depends on the team. I'm a keep you in front of you type person. I like playing man to man, but we'll adjust with the group that I have.
You mentioned that you are smaller this year. Where does that leave you height wise? Like, what's the tallest girl on your team?
So we have
Tallest
one
couple.
kid, Maddie Canese, that's probably 6', 6'1". She's looking me in the eye, and then after that, honestly it falls off. If I'm being honest, our next probably tallest girl's 5'9", 5'8". We got a whole bunch that are 5'5"-ish. So got one that's got good size, and she's a great athlete, great track runner. But after that, it's pretty small.
So what do you tell your team, I guess, because you're smaller, but you still have to rebound. What do you kind of tell your team in order so you can at least try to keep up or at least keep pace, rebound wise? Is boxing out like a big I guess focus, or what? I guess what's the thing to even the odds, I guess?
Yeah, I think what you say and what you do has got to align. So we talk about boxing out a lot, but we also do it every day in practice. Emphasize it when we go up and down in practice. So when we play our 4 or 6 minute quarters or 8 minute quarter scrimmage in practice, we have an assistant coach that's watching that. And if they don't box out, we kind of got a little point system going where it's -1 if they don't and a +1 if they do. So you kind of balance it out at the end. But it's really about technique. And as we get more in depth in the season and start preparing for teams, we will be specific on which girl on the opposing team is their best rebounder and really emphasize, hey, you don't have to get the rebound. You just can't let her get the rebound. So yes, talking it and teaching it, I think, is the most important for our kids. But when you're dealing with, right now we have 3 freshmen in our rotation. So when you're dealing with 3 freshmen, any coaches that are listening know that I've probably got a couple more gray hairs than I had a couple weeks ago with these freshmen. So they're learning, and we're learning the best way to teach them. So fun, challenging, but yeah, you got to be able to talk it and teach it, I think, and get your best out of your kids.
What was the challenge, or what was the experience like going from coaching essentially your friends, in 2010, essentially your teammates, or
Yeah.
trying to coach them up, to coaching younger kids to then coaching high school kids? Because it's kind of a different mode you have for each one of those.
I've done a lot of interviews in 8 years. I've never had that question. Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, as I mentioned, I always kind of felt and enjoyed the coaching part of it. I will say that I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing, to be honest with you, Hunter, but I was never afraid to make anybody mad when I was their teammate or their same age. If I felt like that something needed to be said to them, then I would say it and try to hold them accountable. But when you're a friend, and one of the people, or actually multiple people, teammates that I coached that year that I had to sit out, I lived with. So I was trying to coach them and then go home and live with them. So I was just able to learn that relationships matter. And I know that I've already said that, but if kids and teammates or friends, if they know that you care about them, they're more likely to listen. Sometimes if they don't know that you care about them, they won't listen to what you have to say. So I think you have to develop a relationship with people where they know that you care, and that when you're holding them accountable, you're doing it for them, not to them. So regardless if that's a teammate or a younger kid or a male or a female, it doesn't matter. They have to know that you care about them.
Sorry about that. So what's so when you now that you're coaching high school girls, was there any kind of thing you had to do differently from even when you start coaching girls in the first place, from coaching boys to girls? Is there any big difference that stood out, or is it kind of you can approach it the same?
I think you can approach it similar. It's not the same. when it comes to female, I'm talking basketball specific, their athleticism obviously is not as high as what a male team would be as far as getting up and down the floor and the positioning and stuff that I've kind of already touched on. But there is similarities in the fact that, the team has to have an identity and the culture has to be good. I know that's a hot word right now, but I think it's true. You have to have a culture of accountability and toughness, regardless if that's boys or girls. I think the biggest misconception that's out there that I would always fight against is that girls can't be tough or they can't play hard. No, they can. And our girls want to be held accountable the same level as a boys team. There's no difference as far as that stuff goes. The only difference in my mind, again, I've touched on it, is just some athleticism stuff, the ability to jump and sprint, and that to me that's the only difference.
Not many backdoor lobs.
Yeah, exactly.
When we've talked about the change, when your team's smaller, does the shooting aspect take a bigger priority? The outside shooting.
100%. Yeah, that's the hard part for this group. A higher percentage shots a layup. We had like I said, two kids last year that played on the interior, and we wanted to take layups. It's a high percentage shot. This year, when some of our kids are going into the paint and scrimmaging, they're getting their stuff thrown all the way into the bleachers because they're 5'2". Yeah, you got to be able to. What I think my point of emphasis for our kids is to make the uncontested shot. Contested shots are more difficult to make. If we can get our girls where they can attack and get a teammate open and kick to them for three, that's an uncontested three. We would like that percentage to be pretty high. We spent a whole lot more time shooting from the perimeter, shooting drills, stuff like that this year than we did last year. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely.
When you do you have some scrimmages set up against other schools?
Yeah, so the IHSAA allows you one scrimmage, and it is actually tomorrow. We're recording this on Friday, so it's the 28th, Saturday, against Vincennes Reveille.
Yeah. So would you argue when you scrimmage against yourself, is it harder to scrimmage against yourself or an opponent that doesn't know what's coming?
As a coach, I think to me, I enjoy scrimmaging an opponent way more than I enjoy scrimmaging ourselves. And the reason I say that is I'm stealing this a little bit, but I was listening to a podcast from Houston's men's coach, Calvin Sampson, and he was talking about how he hates the inner squads because if the offensive team does something really well, that means his defensive team did not do something very well. So there's always a negative, and us as coaches sometimes always catch what we did wrong instead of what we did right. So when we do 5-on-5 in practice, somebody may make a great defensive stop, and I'm ticked off because we turned the ball over. So it's just a chance to focus tomorrow. Scrimmage will be just focus on us. So I can just primarily focus on what our kids are doing well and not well and help them with what they're not doing well. So, yeah, I enjoy the opposing side scrimmages more than the inter squad.
Is there anything in the scrimmages that, I'm sure you're looking for everything, but you kind of, if you maybe discount more, like, I don't know what an example would be, like if something doesn't work in a scrimmage, would you be willing to take it out or fix or flip it on its head or something if it goes poorly in the scrimmage?
Absolutely, yeah. The scrimmage to us is just kind of throwing noodles against the wall and see what sticks. To be honest, so different offensive sets that we do, and maybe even the direction that we run it. So maybe we like running it to the left, and it didn't work that way, so let's try it to the right. Something that's that simple. What we are looking for is just for our kids to compete. And then our job as coaches is to adjust, whether that's offensively or defensively. And we will throw different stuff at Reveille defensively too, man-to-man, a zone press, a man press, just to see what our kids, what are they doing well, and then what gave Vincennes some fits. So just that sort of cat and mouse game to try to figure out what worked well against an opposing team.
Is there anything, or feel free to mention anything over the years that you thought was going to work or you were hoping it worked and then you just had to throw out because it just didn't go as planned?
Thinking back a few years ago, we ran some flex stuff. I feel like if you've been in basketball for very long, you've ran across the flex offense. And for me and my philosophy, I just didn't really like it in that particular group. We did not do very well with it. I didn't like the lane line to lane line pass. So in order to reverse the ball, basketball coaches would kind of know you got to pass it elbow to elbow before that flex cut. And I just felt like it got picked off a lot. And when that pass is stolen, it's 2 points for the other team. So the flex offense we've kind of went away from a little bit, and I feel like that's benefited us as a program.
We've talked about the outside shooting. Is there any skill that you kind of try to is there any skill that you're not as worried about with this team than you have had previous teams? Be it maybe you just know what you can't get inside as much, you're not working on as much stuff inside, or I guess, is there anything that this year is like you're kind of aware you can't do, so maybe some focus has been taken off of it?
Uh, a little, I would say. I mean, the biggest thing for us is we spend time 2 or 3 times a week with skill development. So we'll split up into different groups. Assistant coach will take the guards. The other assistant coach will take, the JV guards. And typically in the past few years, I've kind of absorbed the post players. Man, last year I had a full group down there. We had 4, 5, 6 kids that were getting after it, and it was fun. Now this year we're all undersized, and I look down at the guard group. They've got 10 in their group. I look down at mine. I've got 2. So just how the shift has happened over the last couple of years, where we were so post dominant last year, and now we're so guard oriented this year. Just spending more time with the kids that are guards, with our coach that's a guard coach, and less kids that are with me, which is, hey, it might be a better thing.
What is your, and you maybe thought about this, I'm sure you have, what's your rotation look like when you only have, as you mentioned, 2 people that can feasibly be, a big?
It's very challenging.
Yeah.
Very challenging, because you got foul trouble in there in the game of basketball, and early in the season you don't want to play a kid for 32 minutes in first week in November. So that's going to be the part we got to figure out, to be honest with you, Hunter. Maddie Canese is the young lady's name. That's our interior post player that she won't be able to play the whole time.
Yeah.
So we have to play with 5 guards at some point. We'll look at that at the scrimmage tomorrow and see what it looks like. It's going to be hard. Teams will definitely take advantage of that lineup when it's in there, because we'll be so small. We'll just have to try to piece that together and see what it looks like first couple of weeks of the regular season, and then make adjustments along the way.
So conceptually, does that look borderline like a 5 out, or just try to draw the defense as far away from the bucket as possible?
Yes, yeah, 5 out action. We do kind of run a 4 out, 1 in motion, and we've done that. This will be our 8th year doing it. Really like the offense. When she's out and a guard goes in, we'll just take that guard and say, hey, instead of you going short corner to short corner and posting up when you can, get your butt out on the perimeter and let's do this thing 5 out and try to attack and get a shot that way. Yeah.
And so, knowing that you're undersized, has there been any talk about when a team has a good post player trying to double the post and force a mistake down there, knowing that if the shot goes up, it's going to be a lot harder to get a rebound?
Yeah, me and you are on the same page. We're going to have to do that. There's some good post players around here. First one comes to mind is from Central, which is right down the road. Maddie Shirley, sophomore, great player, skilled, can score at any level. But interior, her on the block's a problem for us. And Coach Alexander at Central knows that, I'm sure. Maddie Shirley knows that. We'll have to jam her when she catches it. I mean, I could call her the day before we play, and she knows that. When she catches the ball against us in December 5th, we're going to double her. Try to prevent her from even catching it, but if she does catch it, prevent her from turning to face the basket. Yeah, we're going to have to double the post.
Was there any thought this year, and how big is your group, freshmen and all considered?
Have 6 total freshmen, as I mentioned earlier, 3 in the rotation, in the varsity rotation.
So was there any thought, well, I guess that you kind of answer my question, any thought if any of them were taller to maybe try to rush them a little bit more or rush them up to maybe more minutes than they are ready for because of, extra height?
Yeah, one of them is, none of them are really very tall. One of them is I'll say 5'8", but she's very physical. She's not afraid to bump and bang down low on the defensive end and box out and rebound. And she can score around the basket. I'm not sure if she's ready for the varsity level. I've told her that. So if her mom's listening, Annie, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure she's ready. Well, she's going to have to get ready. And that's our job to do that as a coach. One of the biggest adversity things that we've got to overcome that I think probably the leader of the program, even last year, the heart of the team, I would say she's just leads by example. Evie Sale, who's a junior, she got hurt the first week of the season, and she's not playing. She tore her ACL. So we were going to have some issues with this new group, anyways. The freshmen, if you would have had this podcast 2 weeks ago, I would have said the freshmen are going to split quarters, meaning play some JV and then play some varsity, because we have Evie who can play the whole time and play multiple positions. She's probably 5'10", can defend down low, defend on the perimeter, handle the ball. She could do a lot for us. When she goes out, it changes everything. So now here we are about a week and a half into practice without her. Change, like I said, that's why I kind of mentioned earlier, we're going to have to figure this thing out as we go.
Is there anything as a coach you kind of have to tell your team or try to calm your team when a key component of the team goes down with an injury?
What I've learned is to be honest with them. And the first thing I told them is when she went down, obviously you don't have an MRI within seconds, but
Yeah,
the way that she kind of went down on her knee and her pain level when she went down, you knew. I mean,
you
if
can
you
tell
know
us
it,
some of that stuff.
yeah, you knew. I was sick to my stomach, and that was practice was about 30, 40 minutes from being over. To me, that was it. Me personally, I was done. So I called them together once she got in the training room. I said, girls, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm sick to my stomach. Let's go in the training room and let's say that, we're thinking about her and that sort of stuff. Be a good teammate, and we're done for today. That's just it. We're gonna regroup. After we had a conversation with Evie and said, hey, we're going to support you and hope for the best and support you, like I said, support you along the way. Had a team meeting the next day and said, girls, our backs are against the wall. Nobody's going to believe in you. We lost a lot of stuff from last year. Now we lost Evie. We kind of have a us against the world mentality. Undersized, nobody's counting you to do anything. So we're trying to rally around that it's us against everybody else. And that if we play hard and compete, people might not want to play us every night.
You mentioned, or we kind of talked about how we've mentioned a lot how undersized you are. Is there anyone in the area that you know of who's smaller than you? Putting you on the spot there.
I don't know if they're as undersized as we are as far as height, but Princeton plays very similar. He plays 4 or 5 guards at a time, but they are physical, and he has a couple kids that are taller, but they do play on the perimeter. So we're similar in the fact the way that we're going to have to play, pressure the ball, shoot some threes, attack, that sort of thing.
Is there's challenges to being undersized, but there's the strengths of you're more than likely quicker. You're more than likely not maybe more athletic, but more agile. Is that, I'm sure you've been telling your team that you can, try to take advantage of what a lot of time, especially the high school level, can be 6'2" people or extremely lumbering.
Yeah. I think we have the perfect example to talk about. And I talked to our girls about this, and when I told them, it kind of sparkled, put a sparkle and a sense of belief in them. And FDU beat Purdue.
Yeah.
Smallest team in the NCAA tournament. You could just go on and on and on and on about it. 16 seed over 1. Purdue has Zach Edey and all those dudes, and I have the utmost respect for Coach Painter and listen to pretty much every podcast he's on. But if FDU can do it, then why couldn't we do it? So when we play a team they ain't gonna have anybody that's 7'4", but they're gonna have girls that are a hell heck of a lot taller than us. Got to make them uncomfortable. And if you go back and watch that game, if you're watching it live, that's what FDU did. They just made Purdue uncomfortable. So we can do the same stuff. We can put pressure on people and make them uncomfortable defending our dribble drive and that sort of stuff. So obviously we're not at that level. We're not a Division I program, but we can mirror some of the ideas and philosophies that they had in that game that gave them success.
Well, you talked about, I did watch that game live, and they neutralized the 7'4" guy on the boards.
Yeah,
with a
they did.
6'7", with a tallest player of 6'7".
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing they did is the guy that was boxing out Edey didn't really care if he got the rebound. He just didn't want Edey to get the rebound, and we kind of already touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, and North Texas played them small too. A few years ago.
Exactly. Yep.
I used to live like 5 minutes off UNT's campus, so
Nice.
but so what? Kind of winding down here, is there, knowing that you're 8 years in, you've seen a lot of different looks from different teams and your own team. Is there anything like what you see from other coaches at your level? Of course, you see stuff from above levels. You try to take stuff. Is there anything from your own level that you've seen and you're kind of like, man, I kind of want to steal that?
Oh, every single week of every single season. Yeah. This is, if you're trying to create your own stuff in this game, head's gonna be spinning. There's just so much good stuff out there. There's really good coaches, and I love the game. I love the philosophy of the game and the cat and mouse of coaching, but probably what I love just as much is the connections that I've made with coaches. And a lot of times that stems from, hey, what was that you guys did on offense? And I'm the type of person that I'll send an email to anybody, to be honest, and ask them, what did you run on this? I mean, I've sent emails to college coaches. I've seen stuff on TV. The worst thing that can happen is just them ignore me. So, I'll send emails and text out to high school coaches when I'm watching them on film. So if I'm, for example, if I'm watching Boonville play Team X and Team X runs a really cool set that I like, heck, I'll shoot that coach an email and say, hey, I'm watching you play Boonville. What was this that you guys ran? Walk me through that. So, different stuff. I have utmost respect for Jeff Allen at Bedford North Lawrence and what he's done there. Just won a state championship. And, there's great coaches around here, obviously. Bob Meyer at Castle, it's one of our biggest rivals and somebody that we enjoy competing against each other, but we bounce ideas off of each other as well. So that sort of stuff, yeah, that's the fun part, and I'm willing to steal from whoever's willing to share.
For example, Wrights has a new head coach.
Yeah.
And what do you do? I talked to him a couple days ago. What do you do to when you haven't seen a coach's stuff before? How do you kind of approach that, especially when there's limited film on, a new opponent?
So the biggest thing that I try to take advantage of, hopefully I'm not getting out the secret sauce here, but in the summer times in high school, we play a lot of scrimmages in the summer. So for example, this past summer, Central had like a weekly little league on Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday nights. Don't quote me on Wednesdays. But Wrights was there. So every time that Wrights played, I'm sitting on the sideline and I'm taking some notes on just different stuff that he's doing because he's going to change and evolve as he gets to learn his team and make adjustments. But the core of what he likes to do and the defense that he's going to play is probably going to be the same. So I try to pick up on that as quick as I can. If a coach comes from a different school, I'll try to watch where they came from just to see some of their philosophies. And then, as you mentioned, once the season starts, we're going to watch their film and pick up on stuff like that.
With you're in a bigger area, Evansville, you got a lot of population. How hard over the years have you tried to, work the hallways, work the, maybe and you're work the talent pool that's available, but maybe not playing basketball or maybe even a sport at all?
Girls basketball coaches, at least in Southern Indiana, I'd say this is probably the most challenging part. Our numbers are not good. And it's at Evansville North High School, but from people that I've talked to, it's across the board. We could go on probably a whole other podcast about why that is, but we're trying to retain our kids. It seems to be our numbers are good at the junior high. North Junior High's enrollment's like 1,000. So, the kids that they have to pick from, they'll have 25, 30 kids in their program. And then if for whatever reason, they start specializing in a certain sport. And of course you have kids that just don't want to play anymore. So what our primary focus has been, especially over the last few years, and this freshman group is kind of the first group where we really focused in on maintaining a relationship with them once they got into the junior high, going to meet with them and even having like a little team get together where our high school coaches are there just so they know who we are. We're trying to retain our kids. The interest is there in the junior high, and then we're losing it before they even get to us. So to have 6 freshmen may not seem like a lot to people that are listening, but I'm telling you, that's a big number in a class right now. And then what I try to do is reach out to the athletes in the school. So if our boys basketball coach, who's a PE teacher here, he comes in my office and says, hey, you've got a girl that's super athletic that plays wiffle ball, or super athletic that's playing whatever they're doing in gym class, I'll go in and watch her. And if she's athletic, I'll say, have you thought about basketball? And for the first time, I got to say, we got one this year. The young lady that was athletic in PE, and she decided to play basketball, and I'm excited about it.
That's really all I have prepared question wise. Is there any, do you open home against Boonville?
Yes, on Monday the 6th.
Yeah. So you played on is there anything else you want to get in there? That's all I have question wise.
No, I mean, the only thing that I would say is, number one, I appreciate you reaching out to me and Coach Stone, and that I would encourage you to do all the girls basketball coaches around here. These girls deserve exposure. That's what I'll say. They're putting in the same amount of time, energy, and effort as every other athlete. And for folks like you to put me on to talk about girls basketball is appreciated. So I really appreciate that, and hopefully you'll continue.
Well, I've been Hunter Wade at the Athletes Lounge podcast. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, huh?
Hey guys, this is Hunter Wade at the Athletes Lounge podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe where you can. Thanks.